and welcome to Inside Nigeria. My name is Tion Joseph, and in my hands are 4 different newspapers from which I'll be reading the major stories from. Permit me to begin with Leadership newspaper, the most influential newspaper in Nigeria. On Leadership this morning, the lead story says, as Naira black market booms, CBN silence throws Nigerians into confusion. Apex Bank mum on Supreme Court ruling. Supermarkets, drivers, traders reject old notes. Banks give conditions. And lastly, PNB meets Emefiele as court hears case tomorrow. That is the report we have on Leadership this morning. But of course, you can find more stories on our website. You just need to hop on to www.leadership.ng. Now, let's take a look at the Punch. And the headline on the Punch this morning says, Naira deadline. Banks, fuel stations reject old notes, ignore Supreme Court order. Buhari, Emefiele meet again as old Naira deposits hit over 2 trillion Naira. POS operators, depositors panic, flood banking halls with old currency. Fuel marketers blame banks, costs turn back lawyers with expired money. That is the report we have from the Punch this morning. And that takes us to The Nation. And the lead story on The Nation this morning says, Naira crisis has brought hunger. Anger, says Sultan. Monarch asks president to take action. Banks reject old notes, shut out customers. That is the report we have from The Nation. And now to conclude the first part of the show, just before I hand over to studio, we have This Day. The lead story on This Day says, 11 days to presidential poll. All eyes on you. Buhari charges Nigerian police. First bullet says, INEC expresses concern about violent attacks on supporters of political parties. Says elections won't hold in 240 polling units, INEC declares. And lastly, Commission finalizing issuance of 1,642,306 identification tags for agents. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned for the first part of the show. I crave your indulgence to do the same for the second part of the show. My name is Tion Joseph. I'll be back your way 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Please stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria.
Okay. Good morning, viewers. This is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine. As you can see in the studio, I'm wearing red and white just to commemorate the day. And this is your sincerely Winifred Uglebo, handling the steering wheel of today's Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. With me in the studio is the public affairs analyst, Dayo Omo.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. I see that you're all red.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, without wasting much time, we have papers for review this Tuesday morning, this Valentine's Day. We have Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Leadership is leading with the story as Naira black market booms. CBN silence throws Nigerians into confusion. As Naira black market booms, CBN silence throws Nigerians into confusion. Apex Bank mom on Supreme Court ruling. Supermarkets, drivers, traders reject old notes. Banks give conditions. PNB meets Emefiele as court hears case tomorrow. I'll take that again. As Naira black market booms, CBN silence throws Nigerians into confusion. Apex Bank mom on Supreme Court ruling. Supermarkets, drivers, traders reject old notes. Banks give conditions. PNB meets Emefiele as court hears case tomorrow. That's the leading story on Leadership newspaper. Stay same on Leadership. Before we leave Leadership, we have other interesting stories as well on the cover of Leadership. We have Star City. Federal government raises petrol supply evacuation to 502.21 million liters. Scarcity. Federal government raises petrol supply evacuation to 502.21 million liters. Then on page 7 of the same Leadership, Nigerians may rise up against their leaders, Sultan of Sokoto warns. Nigerians may rise up against their leaders, Sultan warns. Ignore fake news on elections postponement, INEC says. Fani Kayode recounts ordeal at DSS over coup claim. Police grill Abuja pastor who brandished AK-47 rifle in church. Miners beg federal government for prompt compensation over acquired factory site. Government bomb Imo court, police key gun runner in Anambra. All these interesting stories are in Leadership Tuesday, February 14, 2023. For more of the stories, you can log on to their website, www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, let's move over to this another paper, and that is the Punch. The Punch says Naira deadline is still the same story, leading story with Leadership. Banks, fuel stations reject old notes, ignore Supreme Court order. Naira deadline. Banks, fuel stations reject old notes, ignore Supreme Court order. Buhari Emefiele meet again as old Naira deposits hit over 2 trillion Naira. Buhari Emefiele meets again as old Naira deposits hit over 2 trillion Naira. POS operators, depositors panic, flood banking halls with old currency. Few marketers blame banks, courts turn back lawyers with expired money. The leading story on the Punch newspaper. And this same on the Punch, we have a story just beside the masthead and on Fani Kayode after DSS ruling says, I regret raising coup alarm. I regret raising coup alarm. Fani Kayode after DSS ruling. And of course, Tinubu says above the masthead, North will benefit greatly from Komani oil feed. Naka says, share love on Valentine's Day, not HIV. Atiku Rivers rally cancelled to prevent deaths, PDP. Buhari launches security equipment, warns police against politics. That is some of the leading stories today on the Punch newspaper. For more on the stories, you can also log on to their website www.punchng.com. And the Nation newspaper also has the same leading story as well as the Punch and Leadership. The Nation says Naira crisis has brought anger, says Sultan of Sokoto. Naira crisis has brought anger, says Sultan. Monarch asks president to take action. Banks reject old notes, short at customers. That's the leading story on the Nation. I'll take the story once again. Naira crisis has brought anger, says Sultan. Monarch asks president to take action. Banks reject old notes, short at customers. An hungry man
Yes,
is an angry man. A hungry man is an angry man.
Very
That's the
angry.
situation we are seeing or having on our hands currently
That's
in
correct.
the country.
That's correct. It's a very terrible situation. There's so much confusion in the land.
Yes.
If the Supreme Court has given an order saying that they should continue to spend the old
Old
notes,
notes.
you find out that even the court system under the same judiciary, from another report, a court rejected the old notes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it means that even from within the judiciary itself, they don't
Yeah.
even believe in the
Yes,
judgment.
courts turn back lawyers
Exactly.
with
So,
expired money.
because
That's the
we
story
would
on the Punch.
it shows you how lawless that we can
It is.
be in this place.
But I think this lacuna is quite definite because we saw or Nigerians woke up to the news from it, to the judgment from the Supreme Court when the three states governors took the federal government to court over this currency swap. And the Supreme Court said yes, they can spend. Nigerians should continue spending the old naira note until 15th of February when the case will come up again. And we see a situation whereby the Emefiele, the CBN governor, has not come to say, "Oh,
Anything
go ahead
or
or
not."
and it has left. There's a
Yeah,
lacuna.
and this is causing a whole lot of confusion that will lead to crisis.
Yes.
Because if you go out there now, most people, like has been reported, most people are rejecting the. In fact, I had an experience this morning where I had one of the old notes, 500 naira notes, and I tried to spend it on two different occasions. The people said no, they don't accept this. So I just tried it for a third time, and then the guy collected.
Okay,
said,
even at the
"Thank
filling
God."
station yesterday,
You know, so
a man that was going to pay with a
Old
naira
notes.
note, 1,000, and the few attendant said
Said
no,
no.
they don't.
Yeah,
collect
so
old notes.
So the federal government or the CBN ought to have at least said something clearly.
Yes.
There should have been a definite statement about what exactly. But again, whether or not they made a statement, if we live in a law-driven society where law and order are sacrosanct, you would, where the rule of law is sacrosanct, you would expect that once this Supreme Court spoke, everybody will line up, and that we should have been free to spend the news until tomorrow.
And
But
that's
not the
exactly
situation, and
my
that's
eye
very
just
sad.
caught THISDAY. That's what THISDAY also said up top. He's the master. He said despite Supreme Court's ex parte
Exactly.
order, old naira notes lose legitimacy.
Exactly.
Court rejects old bank notes for filing cases.
Imagine
Vested
that.
interest resisting currency redesign, says CBN MVC member. Maintains commercial banks mismanaging distribution process.
I think
Give
so.
order on recirculation of old notes, groups or Buhari. And which makes me wonder, Dayo.
Yeah.
Emefiele has been meeting with Buhari all this while. So
Yeah.
what has been the outcome of the meeting?
No, I think those are very top secret meetings. If you find out, it's always reported as private.
Because it's either you have
and,
one would have expected that he will come out to say, oh, after due consultations with the president, look at what we are moving forward. This is the situation of that. But we are not hearing that. And the meeting still continues because the paper reports that he's also still meeting with PNB.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, today.
I think that they're just checking to see how much stress or tension has been sparked off by this, and once they feel that it is within manageable means, then they continue to do what they're doing. See, I think that again they are concerned that what they set out to achieve may not be achieved if they were to relax their if they were to change
And
their
same thing.
order.
So also in the similarly, the Council of State, comprising of
Yeah,
former
former
presidents of
justices of the Supreme
yes,
Court.
they met and they also agreed that Emefiele should proceed and print more new naira notes. But if he cannot, that the old notes should be distributed, should run side by side.
Yeah, those are
Then
people
why are they
looking
not
for practical
obeying
solutions. I don't know. I think that
this
what's of primary concern to Emefiele and PNB is to ensure that this election is not bought. I think basically that's what they are really truly concerned about. They are concerned that money bags don't just take over the system because they have money. And so whatever else you say, they are likely not going to board. But that ought not to be so. Because if we live in a country where there are laws, and if the judiciary is a part of the three levels of government, then we ought to give every respect to the laws. Because if you do that, what the federal government is doing right now is setting very bad example, very bad precedent. Again, though, some people have said that the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction in this matter, and I'm wondering, so if a whole Supreme Court does not know whether they have jurisdiction or not, then we're in a very bad place. So I think that there's some games going on. I think that some people who ought to enforce certain things are not doing so, because if the Supreme Court gives an order and it is not carried out, I think that there are measures by which that kind of thing can be enforced, and we have not seen any of that. And people are suffering. People are in. I mean, there's so much exactly. Dire straits. People don't have money to spend, and then there's an exchange between the CBN and the deposit money banks. As the CBN is saying that, and I agree to some extent, I believe so, that the deposit money banks are not managing the situation well. That maybe they are giving that they're playing some games, they're doing some trading to benefit themselves with the monies. But again, there's the argument that even the CBN has not provided sufficient cash for the swap.
Yes, that's what I was.
That's a
going to,
huge
that's
one.
what I was
If
going
that
to
is
say.
correct, then that's a huge problem.
Oh yes, because you can actually say that admit that this policy, although well intentioned, was not carefully thought out, because we have a situation whereby even the Punch reported that old naira notes deposits hit over 2 trillion naira, and yet Emefiele printed 300 million.
So how did you?
So there's not even
nothing.
The ratio is so low.
It's too. I mean, it's too
low.
Not
even up to 800
because
million,
like someone was saying,
up to
if you mop up 2.1 trillion, you should at least be putting 2 trillion there out there for people to exchange with.
No,
and even then,
won't be too much, because I know that
okay, because part of it is to mop up liquidity.
Yes,
okay,
but at the end of the day,
at least you should put up like maybe half.
Yes,
at least half 1 trillion, 1 trillion,
800
or something, so that there's enough to move around. But because you can't bring in 300.
Just factory 300.
No, it can't work. That's apparently why we're having this problem. Yeah. That's why we're having this problem. And we can only appeal to PMB that he should not leave a legacy. He should not allow Nigerians to remember him on this kind of note. I mean, he's living in a few months' time, in about 3 months' time. And so if he wants to be remembered as a president who left people in utter, suffering, in hunger. Look at what Sultan just said. And it's good that we have leaders who can say it as it is. That Nigerians are hungry and are angry. Yes. So we need to talk to the president. Mr. President, please do something. It should not be that on your watch, even as you leave, what kind of note do you want to leave on? What do you want to be remembered for? A lot of times when you leave an office, people remember you by the things you leave at about the time that you leave. So if you leave in about 3 months' time and people remember you that they suffered so much for about 2 months, they had money, they didn't have access to it, and nobody even sees, nobody knows when all this is going to be over. So is this what you want to leave with? Is this, how, again, why you are saying you don't want elections to be bought, you don't want corruption in the elections, how are people also going to be able to move around during the elections? Do you understand?
Exactly. If they're going to stay at home and say that, what's my business?
Exactly. I mean, if they can't have cash to do their to meet their basic needs, what is the essence?
That which brings me to the next question I was going to ask, because if you ask, I want to ask you: has the aim now of Muslim vote buying has it not been defeated? Because considering the fact that the CBN governor did mention that in November, new naira notes were disbursed to all these banks, and yet these banks cannot account for it. So what happened to the new naira notes? Don't you think that they actually took some of these naira notes to these politicians and trade for new notes?
I've been saying for some time now that
has the aim not been defeated?
That the aim has been defeated. The plot has been lost. If the plot was to frustrate banditry and all these violent crimes,
we saw bandits displaying.
You saw bandits display sackloads of them.
Yes.
I mean, not while you and I are struggling to get a few notes, they had sackloads. It tells you two things: that one, the CBN didn't do its oversight work well. It just believed that the policy was good, and policy is good. There's no doubt about it. And then they went to sleep. And then when they were even being called, when the attention was being called, they didn't rise up to the occasion. For example, if you remember, about a month to the deadline, people began to complain and say, look, we still go to the banks, and the old notes are still what we get. At that point, if the CBN had taken it up, I believe that we won't be in the mess that we're in right now. But they just believe that, no, I mean, maybe they're just ranting. They're just making they just want to create unnecessary noise and tension. But the reality has hit us. The truth is that CBN really let us down in the area of the oversight. That's one. Two is that we, the people, the Nigerians ourselves, we are a problem unto ourselves. You see, it has become that whatever policy you bring into place, you must factor in the Nigerian factor.
Yes.
You must think that there is somebody somewhere who would frustrate
banks are not disbursing the money to the
where's the
men
money
on the streets. Yes.
Exactly. So where's the money? And then you see a whole lot of other things begin to pop up. You find out that monies still dating 2018, those 50 naira, dead notes that we were taught. I mean, we learned that those notes are usually burnt up. Yes. But now they are surfacing in large volumes. I mean, for what purpose? It shows you that something is wrong, even with the CBN itself. Because if people also had those notes brand new, fine, people will collect. Yes. But you find that those notes are mutilated, they are dead, they are dirty, they are smelling. So on several sides, the CBN, like I said somewhere before, the CBN must really take responsibility. I believe that they had a good intention, but they must take responsibility for the oversight that has not been properly done. Yes. And then the bankers themselves also, there's something that's fishy, and I think that part of the work of CBN would have been to ensure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 of these people are dealt with so that it can be what do you call it now, a deterrent to others. Exactly. Else
they just say, they made arrest, like they made arrest of one
and then one exactly. We've not heard anything.
Like just know that it's not just one bank.
Exactly.
A bank that has closed shop since and nothing has happened. Nothing has
a whole lot needs to be done by the Apex Bank. They must really take up their position as the regulator and supervisor in that sector.
Thank you so much. Now we are going on a break. When we come back, we have other topics to discuss on today's Inside Nigeria. Don't go away, stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. This is Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. With me in the studio has been our public affairs analyst, Dayo Omogo. Dayo, thank you once again.
Thank you.
And I am winning for the bubble. We are looking at the headline story on THISDAY. THISDAY says 11 days to presidential poll. All eyes on you. Buhari charges Nigeria Police. INEC expresses concern about violent attacks on supporters of political parties. Says elections won't hold in 240 polling units. INEC declares. Commission finalizing issuance of 1,642 and 386 identification tags for agents. Commission finalizing issuance of 1,642,386 identification tags for agents. 11 days to presidential poll. All eyes on you. Buhari charges Nigerian police.
I think
How
that's
too
it.
soon?
That's
We are
it.
drawing closer. Just 11
I'm
days. Do you have
telling you, just a
butterflies in your
few days.
stomach?
I'm not one of the contestants, so it doesn't matter.
No, but
But
it does
it
matter.
matters.
You
It
know,
matters who eventually wins.
Exactly.
It matters. But
I
the point
do.
is,
I'm like, wow,
but
so
you
soon.
see,
We are getting there. We are getting there.
you know, like some of the things I said before in several other places are coming to pass. That Nigeria is very patently tribalistic.
It is.
Did you see a report that said that the Southwest, LP, have collapsed their structure and then
Yes.
collapsed it for APC?
ABC. Yeah.
It shows you what we are talking about. Someone, who was that? Dele Momodu was saying that you mean that Obi will win in the north? That must be a huge joke. You know, all this all centers around the fact that we have a tendency towards being very tribalistic,
Yeah.
and that's the major problem.
Nigeria became so
flow with-
polarized during the 2011 elections.
Yeah.
We saw the voting pattern. That's why it came about.
Exactly.
Jonathan, Buhari, and
Exactly.
that was
And
this one.
this government has even perpetrated those kind of
Yes, it did.
tendencies.
Yes, it did.
So it's
Nigeria has never
become
been so polarized.
that, like this. So I think that the charge to the police is well timed. It's very important that the police should know that, look, our lives are in your hands right
We
now.
also even saw a bit of it during the Labour Party's rally in Lagos
Okay.
over the weekend.
Over
We
the
saw that
weekend.
some of their supporters were attacked.
That's
by thugs.
it's unfortunate that is happening. I must say that this is one campaign that has not been very violent. There's been a lot less violence than before,
Yes.
so that is commendable. But at the same time, any amount of violence at all is not welcome.
And
So,
it's also
there's no
it's
point-
also brought to my fore that this time around they've not really, apart from war of words among the political gladiators, we've not really seen so much of advertisement. On
Exactly.
papers.
It shows you that
Just comes once in a while.
there's a whole lot that's different in this election. There's a whole lot.
A whole lot.
There's so much money that used to go into advertising.
Oh yeah, so much.
And through different
We see so
platforms,
many, they
radio,
use media,
social media,
media
print,
to
and everything,
to
TV,
blacklist their
blackmail, and do
exactly,
all kinds of
those
things.
kind of
We
things.
didn't get all that. We didn't
Yeah,
get
we
all
used to
that.
see.
So only maybe they believe that they don't need to do all that. But unfortunately, we will see the results. Or fortunately, we will see the results.
So at least I can
less
say
than
that
2 weeks.
those media are not smiling to the banks this time around.
No,
During
they're
this-
not.
During
No,
this
they're not.
election,
Clearly,
it
they're
just
not.
occurred to me that
No, but they're
11
not.
days to go. I was
Yeah.
discussing it
Not
just
much.
yesterday.
Not
I
much
said,
has,
no,
has come to the group.
yes,
Yeah,
not much.
Yeah.
It's even APC that most times
Exactly,
do
that even
wrap around,
spends some
like we
money.
saw yesterday in some of the selected
APC
newspapers,
has,
just three newspapers has a
led in
wrap
spending
around.
money.
Mm.
And even then,
Even
it's
then,
still, you
it's
still
not
notice that
like we used
they're,
to
they're
see.
careful. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, don't forget that there are laws, and we're believing that those laws will be followed. There are laws about how much you can spend for campaigns and all that. So, but the truth is that sincerely, the media didn't enjoy this this campaign.
No, it didn't.
No,
Because
not at all.
yesterday
Well,
we
it's
were
good. It's all
discussing-
good because what it does is that the media can also be as objective, as dispassionate as
Yes.
possible in its takes, in its
Yes.
assessment of whatever is going on. Because once you don't bite the finger that feeds you. Once you begin to get so much advert from a particular, there's a tendency for you to begin to want
Yeah,
to
you
say,
lean
to
towards
lean
the
towards.
person.
So, but since there are no such things, you can be as straight as possible.
Yeah, but what is now getting me worried is this second rider on these days leading story that elections, INEC declares that election would hold in 240 polling units. So what happened to the registered voters there?
No, they said
They
there are
going
no
to-
registered voters. In
Okay.
those places, nobody registered to vote. And I think that is a very good move. Because
Yeah.
what he would have done if they had kept quiet about it is that maybe some people will go and look at it as a lacuna to exploit
Yes.
and use it to feed
what they
whatever.
want to do.
But clearly, those 240 polling units are not going to be used. So if you bring, first of all, you can't bring a result from there, and no result is going to come from there. So if a result comes from there, it's dead on arrival. Good. And then they have explained why, saying that there are no registered voters who chose to vote in those particular places. My own worry was another piece of information that came in yesterday, saying that INEC has that everyone who is eligible to vote should go and check so that they are sure where their names are, because INEC has done some rearrangement, because where there are too many names, they had to be
taken to another places. Yes, somebody was one of the platforms I belong to that we check. So I actually quickly checked.
Okay,
the link you provided. I saw that, yes, I was still in mine.
You were still in your, because again, I hope that there's no hanky-panky with that. Why would you bother pushing people around to where they did not choose? Because first of all, you do not know why they chose that particular place, whether it's by reason of nearness, convenience, and maybe you are taking them to a place now where they cannot get to. That could even disenfranchise them. So I think that on that particular note, INEC should have left the things the way they were. People who chose those particular polling units have the reasons why they chose them, and you did not consult them before you began to now disperse them. It's not right. That part is, I'm not very comfortable.
And if the place they are actually taking to is far from them, they may just
decide. They won't. A lot of them won't just vote. They won't bother. And see, you also need, but time's not on anybody's side. You need to look at where exactly were those places that were tampered with. So you can be sure that it's not being done to frustrate certain candidates and all that. I trust that those candidates will put people on those things to try to check. But for me, INEC so far has done quite a credible job. They should not begin to soil their hands early like this by these small things.
Yes. So what are, apart from these ones, apart from police, what are other things that we should look at for?
About the election?
Yes.
Well, we cannot overemphasize the part of security, which is what the president was talking to the police about. And security, again, is security of everybody. Everybody has to be involved. Provide information. If you find something is going wrong somewhere, if you find somebody is doing something shady, you should be able to. So there should be, and I think there are phone lines, that dedicated phone lines where you can make reports and all that. That's very crucial. Now, the next thing would be that people should actually plan towards voting, because you know that on a voting day you are not permitted to move around. So you should get your groceries, you should get whatever it is that you need to get and get them in place. I think that advice should go to people from now. And then also we need the media to be properly mobilized by INEC to ensure that there is total coverage as much as possible
of all the elections. Because some media houses, they're having their reporters being trained.
So that's very crucial.
I know of mine this morning.
Because whatever it is that you do without publicity, without the media, it's like walking in the dark. So that's crucial. These areas are crucial. And then if we can quickly resolve this cashlessness. Because I mean, somebody who is hungry, you're not going to be able to encourage him to say, "Please go and vote." A hungry man is an angry man.
Yeah. Before we go, we have the last paper for review, and of course, the headline story is different from every other paper. It says, "El-Rufai, I no longer believe in leadership quality around the Buhari." You know, when this story trended about 2-3 days ago, I was telling a colleague. He said, "No, I don't believe El-Rufai will say." Which platform did you read it from? I want to be sure that it's from a credible platform before I believe. And incidentally, I saw the story in one of the papers. I showed it to him. He said, "Wow, it could be true then." He said, "Alleges Buhari's cabal eyeing interim government." This is quite weighty. El-Rufai denying Buhari to run away from APC's monumental failure. Middle Belt Forum. They are smelling defeat, resorting to ING PDP leader. APC government unraveling, imploding, Kachiku. Presidency, APC keep mum. I'll take that again. El-Rufai, I no longer believe in leadership quality around Buhari.
Well, I think that's coming late in the day. I mean,
That's what I was
they're
going to
just
say that.
self-serving people, people
Is it
who
by that too late?
once the beat is not good for them,
Yeah.
then they begin to complain. This is sour grapes because, and it's coming late in the day because
Late in the day.
we've seen clearly that there's no quality leadership all this while. I mean, we've seen several times when the man is not even aware of what's happening. So why is he crying out just because they are not playing to his tune? I mean, somebody like El-Rufai is capable of saying anything, and it depends on whatever the circumstances are and what he wants from the setting. I mean, this same Buhari that he became, how do you say it now? He became joined to as if they were Siamese twins. This is the same Buhari he had condemned severally in times past.
Yes,
that he was too old.
When they were in different camps.
Exactly, that he's too old to come and be president, blah, blah, blah. He had said several negative things. El-Rufai is capable of saying anything at any time. We know how much he has vilified Atiku, in spite of the fact that Atiku has been instrumental to whatever he has become in the political space.
DG of a BP.
Or BP. That's how he came in. And from that point, he has continued to. And then at the same time,
now,
he's
both
a
of them,
very.
up to tomorrow, they don't see eye to eye.
But then he is a very wily politician. He can kneel down to you right there in the front of everybody, but it does not change a thing. So he's a very, for me, he's someone that you need to be very careful around. And he's a very selfish, very self-serving person. It's clear from every of his moves. And so that's saying that he doesn't see any quality leadership around Buhari. That's no news. For me, that's no news because we all have seen that. But people like him have been the ones who have kept propping up the leadership and saying, "Oh, Buhari or nothing else." See, it's none of my business what El-Rufai is saying. I think that what is concerned because they won't be able to use money the way they wanted to. Period. Is concerned because I mean, a governor comes to tell me that there are about 20 something local government areas in Borno State. He was the one that said it, that don't have banks, and that in his own state in Kaduna, whether 2 local governments or areas don't have. So good news. Is that 7 o'clock news? What exactly? Am I the one who's supposed to bring the banks there? How much have you contributed to making sure that the economic life of the people is properly engineered to the point where banks will want to come render services there and will be able to take charge of their costs and be able to run a proper business there. So if they don't have that, are we going to continue to work with that? We have been held back for too long in this country. Several times, certain parts of the country want to move forward, but they have to be held back by certain parts. We can't continue that way. So I'm not really El-Rufai saying, "Oh, sure, yes, that's true," but that's old. That's Queen Anne is dead.
Another worrying statement is the fact that alleges Buhari's Kaba eyeing interim government. I mean, coming from somebody who is the El-Rufai.
No, he should be careful.
Somebody that is also from the ruling party.
No, he has to be careful. They just invited Femi Fani-Kayode the other day when he said.
But don't you think he has something to? He's saying it from the decision background.
No, I don't think so. I think people like this, when they no longer are able to function from a place of an edge. I mean, when they lose their edge, when they lose their position, they begin to cry foul. That's what I think is happening. I don't think that there's any plan for any ING. I don't think that there's any coup in the offing, even though what the government has done with the fumbling and the wobbling with this cashless policy in several other climes could have led to mass protests and breakdown of law and order. But we're good people in Nigeria. We're very good people. We are very long suffering. We can take all kinds of things. Else, this is enough. You saw people going naked. I feel sorry for those people because that's something that will be forever available. How do you explain that to your child?
But it's just
It would have been better
I-
to stage
no,
a protest, a peaceful protest.
yeah,
and,
it is,
uh,
but it
than-
depends
than-
on how they were feeling it. Like, what the one that stripped naked.
entirely
The son took it out on the bank
on one of the bank
Did you
staffs.
see?
Yes,
Yeah.
I saw
He
that.
said, and he made bold to say, "I'm the son of the man who stripped naked in your bank. You see what you did to my father." And of course, the woman I was feeling somehow because the banker could not defend herself.
It's
Instead of her to say,
unfortunate
"Oh, it's not
the routes
us.
that
We
were
didn't
being
have
taken.
money," but she was saying that I'm not the one that told your father to strip naked. I'm not the one that told your father to strip
You
naked.
see how very
watching it, I said,
impudent those people
Yeah,
can be.
I said, no, that statement.
That's like stoking
Is
the
that the one
fire.
that told
That's
your
like
father to
pouring
stay
a lot more fuel in the fire.
It's good
If
to
that boy
beg
was
that.
had the
No,
tendency
I didn't
to
have money
violence,
to
he
give.
could,
We didn't
could
have
do
money,
anything.
but they did so much to her because they took the tire from her car. And incidentally, somebody that came for her help, when he heard the boy, was bold enough to say, explain himself. He said, but woman, you are wicked. He had come to
help
to help.
before.
At the end of the day, he joined.
Yeah, so
He joined that because I was telling the woman,
people are
you are
going
wicked.
through a whole lot. So it's not a matter of ing or whatever. Many times again, when they do some of those things,
But
they are selling a dummy.
But you know why I'm worried? Remember when the U.S. Embassy raised read a lot that there were terrorist cells
Yes.
around Abuja
Yes.
planning to disrupt the election.
Yes.
And even though the federal government denied, but they still fished that some. Some arrests were made.
Yes. The truth is that without such a declaration, if you do your due work, if you do proper intelligence-driven security work right now, there will be people to arrest. So it's not necessarily because that call came. And
No, I'm just aligning with
you'll find that the
saying
government
now.
was not even comfortable with that even at the time. In fact, I
Yes.
still heard a piece of news today where I think it was Lai Mohammed who was saying that
Yes, that,
people need to be careful with the kind of advisories that they get.
Yes.
See, while I do not fall totally on the side of the federal government because they are not doing sufficiently enough. But at the same time, we cannot be driven about by all kinds of news and all that. Every country has security challenges. Everybody is trying to manage their own situation. Yes, we might not be doing too well, but let nobody unnecessarily begin to inflame passion here. So for me, I do not see any ing. If there is any, they are the ones trying to sell a dummy so that they can belong. I'm telling you, they are deliberately creating such a situation, a scenario, a hypothetical scenario, so that when it comes to say, oh, I said it, and so and they keep looking at how they can be in the next dispensation. So for me, I don't think there's any plan for any ing. I think that PMB will want to live on a clean note and live with a good elections, and which he has demonstrated with all the reforms that INEC has carried out and everything. So let's hope for a successful election. Why won't they be talking about ing and all kinds of coup and all that? For the first time, it's no longer either APC or PDP. Yeah, for the first time, there's a real fear that there may be a second run of elections. For the first time ever. Before it was either either this party or the other party. But this time around, there's a clear problem. If LP is able to get 25% in about 24 states, then there's a problem. Because if the other two also are there, who has won? We'll need to find out. And so they are really troubled. There's a whole lot of trouble within the ruling party, especially because as it is right now, it looks as if all is not together for them.
And with what is happening too, with this fuel scarcity and this cash crunch, the ruling party is not exactly going out of its way to endear itself to Nigerians.
Exactly, that's the truth.
And
but
course,
that's part of what.
Tinubu to
yes. Except that the way he raised it, he personalized it. Like I said,
he didn't put his trust
exactly.
Well.
If he had said, this is not good for the people, but he said, they are targeting him.
And many people now say, he's now talking because he's involved.
It's affecting him. What about several other things?
Years ago.
People have been killed. You never raised a voice. So I beg.
Really, APC is not doing everything it can, because you can't say that, I'm leaving. I don't care whether the house crumbles or not.
No,
it's not.
No, it's not.
Because you, as a Minister of Petroleum, it was in Buhari's power, the president's power, to stop this fuel scarcity. Fuel scarcity could linger for more up to a year since January last year,
Imagine.
and it's still the same issue.
And then they are just
telling.
telling us now
There's
that
no way
they've
you go
increased
to even now, presently,
evacuation and
yes.
whatever
Yes,
supplies.
you go to the filling station that you not still join queue.
You must queue.
must queue.
Yeah, you're either
Yes,
queuing
yeah.
for fuel or you're queuing for cash or
Yes.
you're queuing for whatever. in
Exactly.
Nigeria
That's
now.
not good enough. You are living, of course,
It's
you should make the
pure-
whole place
pure
conducive for your the person that wants to take over from you. That is just.
No, whoever
I
takes
see.
over will have a whole lot of work to do.
And that is why I
Therefore-
so much solely agree with Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai. He
Yeah.
did say, he said the next
Oh,
administration
yeah.
is going to have it drawn
Clearly,
at least for the past in next 3 years, for the first 3
maybe
years.
not up to 3 years, but the
This
first
is
2
going to
years
have
will
it
be
so
real work.
Is that not a
which will-
self-indictment on the ruling party?
Okay,
an
that's
indictment on the
it.
party. And of course,
That's
he said
it.
the truth. He said
But
the
that's
truth.
it.
Everybody knows that it's not
That's
going to
the
be a
truth.
walkover for the incoming administration.
So-
Well, viewers, you have anything to say as we run down?
Well, the thing is, in spite of every challenge, in spite of cashlessness, go have yourself a Valentine drink, or even if it's just one glass cup. Enjoy yourself and
Yes.
make you forget. Say, problem not the finish. Oh. That's my.
Well, viewers, you've heard it from our guests. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Yesterday, he couldn't be with us because of some circumstances due to and he couldn't control. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Viewers, I remember Winifred Ugboko. Have a beautiful Valentine's celebration. See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.